Tech by Tips.
Hello and welcome to another Tech by Tips video. Apologies first of all for my voice. I have been fighting a flu and I'm starting to feel a little better, but you'll probably hear it in my voice. On today's video, I'm going to do a little bit of a theory, technology explained. Remember in the previous video I covered basically the BitTorrent protocol and the DHT protocol for sharing torrents and how to find torrents in the network. Well, there's something similar. If you've been following my guides, we've covered we can use two downloaders. One of them is, QBitTorrent, for example, for torrents, but then we have another thing called Usenet. And for Usenet, we have another client to download things that in the case of my video series was SAB and ZBD. So in here, we're going to be talking about what is Usenet and how does it work, how does the protocol work for that, and how it is useful for us. All right, so let's cover this is a pretty good article that I found on the basics of Usenet, and I want to leverage this for our discussion. So here basically talks about important things that we need to understand how Usenet actually works. So first of all, what is a news group? And basically everything within Usenet is organized in news groups. So basically it's like a message board where you can post anything. Originally back in the day, because Usenet is very old, it started like in the 80s, 1980s. It was where people were able to talk to each other basically, like a message board, and also upload things into those boards and then share it with other people. So that's basically how it works. It's a message board that is hosted by companies that have servers, and you can upload things there. Once you upload it, it stays in a server, and then a person that is interested in that content can download that content that you upload using their own Usenet account and their client. So basically that's how a news group works. And who can use it? Well, it is a private kind of server. So you have companies that invest money in having a lot of computing power and storage to hold all of this. So they need to charge people to have access to that. So you need to subscribe to a Usenet provider. So there's a lot of them. I'm going to show a map in here about that. But basically you have to pay a membership. It could be either a whole year or it could be like monthly to have access to the Usenet servers. And it varies a lot because some servers give you a retention that is bigger, so you can go back in time more. And others are cheaper, but they have a lesser retention and stuff like that. So that's another thing that we need to discuss. And then basically how are things organized in Usenet? It follows a hierarchy. So it's like a word dot a word dot a word. So you keep on adding and building that hierarchy. And in this example, it's saying, for example, alt business dot consulting, right? So then you'll be going down from alternative into business. So all the things that are here are related to business, but then you go down into this level and then it's related to the specific business of consulting. So that's how you create those like branches of where you can find the things that you care about. For example, in here we recreation, animals, and then wildlife. So then if you go into this news group, you'll find information about, wild animals. And that's how you create the news groups, and that's how they are organized so that you can find what you need. Now, how is the information shared in news groups? Well, that is relying on the network news transfer protocol that was created a long time ago. And this basically is a set of instructions for different software to communicate properly. So a newsreader, in our case, for example, SAB and ZBD is a newsreader, can use that protocol to then access those files that have been posted into the Usenet. And the main important file that we care about when we're using Usenet is NZBs. An NZB is basically like a torrent, but for Usenet. So it points you to the right place, to the right article in the right message board to download the content that you want. And usually if you're sharing something that is pretty big, it tends to be divided into multiple posts with chunks of the articles. So usually what you would see is that you have like a bunch of RAR files or something like that, right? And the big file is split in different same size, smaller parts. And you have to download all of those parts and then put them together, basically. And basically, the NZB lets your newsreader know where to grab every single one of those files. And now, if we scroll down here, it talks about the important things that you should consider when you're trying to get into Usenet. For example, the data transfer. That's an important thing because some companies, they only give you, for example, a specific amount of data that you can download from Usenet in your plan. Or they might give you, for example, unlimited data but on a very limited speed. Or they might give you, unlimited speed and unlimited data. So you have to find out which provider you are going to use and how it adjusts to what you want. That's basically the data transfer. Is talking about how much data you can download if you're like on a bulk data plan where you have a certain amount of data that you can download. Another important thing that you have to take into consideration is the retention of the content. By this, it means that the servers that you upload the information to, they're going to hold that information for a certain amount of days, and that varies per Usenet provider. So some providers might have like a good retention, like 5,000 days, which is a lot. It's a decade basically. But then you have others that are like 1,000 days and things like that. So you have to understand, what kind of content you're trying to get from the Usenet. Is it very old content? Is it not? And then that helps you identify which provider is better for you. Additionally, one benefit of Usenet is that usually those servers have the option for you to use encrypted communication. So you don't need to have your newsreader running behind a VPN because all your communication is encrypted. So that's a great benefit of using Usenet. And the speed, because even if, from my experience, right, even if you have like a bulk plan that just gets you a certain amount of data, usually the speed at which you can get that is very, very fast. Because remember, you're downloading from one powerful server that can saturate your network. So the speed is great on Usenet compared to torrents. And then the amount of connections is also another thing that you have to take into consideration with your provider, because some providers can give you like 25 connections or 50 connections or 100 connections. So depending on how many connections you have, then you might saturate your connection or not. Honestly, from what I've seen, most of the providers give you enough to saturate your connection, even if you have like a 1 gigabit connection per second. Yeah, so this is like the basics of that. So let's move into how things get dumped into Usenet. Let's say, for example, you have a CD or a DVD. So then you scan it on your computer and you make an ISO image of that, right? Then that would be the thing that you are going to upload to the Usenet, right? But you cannot just dump a huge file there because that's not how it works. So then what the application does, the newsreader does, is when you're going to upload that, it's going to split that file into a bunch of smaller different files that have about the same size and compress them. So you see it split and compress. So you see a bunch of RAR files. And then you also have to create what is called parity files, because there is a possibility that you might lose a few of those files in the servers for some reason. So these files allow you to repair the overall image that you would get out of extracting all of this if you have missing elements. So if something is missing, you can use these files to repair what is missing. And then basically all of this gets thrown into Usenet. So you have the RARs and the part2 files, and everything is converted into basically .rar.yank files. And then when your client downloads the different segments of the content that you want, what it does is it checks, do I have all of the sections that I need to recreate this original file? If yes, then it just basically recreates that original file from that. But if it finds that something is missing, then it downloads those parity files to try to see if I have enough parity files to fix all the missing holes that I have in my data. So that's basically how Usenet works and has worked for decades, and it's been a very powerful way of sharing information. So now let me go back into the providers diagram, because this is a lot. This map is a little big, so let me make it small for a second. But yeah, basically this covers all of the different Usenet providers that are out there. So if you can see, this is all different companies that host servers for the backends of Usenet. So if we go here, we can see, let me go to 100%. One company is Abavia, another is Giganews, another New Scene, another Omicron. And if you keep going to the right, you have United News Servers, Usenet Farm, Usenet Express, Usereto, and Net News. And under that, you have a bunch of different backbones, which is the actual place that has the servers. And they are in many different regions, in the US, in the European Union mainly. And then under that, you have the providers per se, which is the companies that actually sell you the service. But the providers are all tied to a backbone. So for example, let's go here to the red one, which is the bigger one, Omicron. So Omicron has several backbones, right? And then several companies that are tied to specific backbones. So Iwika, for example, is tied to the Iwika Internet Services backbone. And then if you look, for example, here in AstraWeb, Astra is connected to the Highwinds Media backbone. But all of those belong to the Omicron company. So you might have within the same company that hosts Usenet differences, because the backbones are different. So sometimes you might find articles here that are not here, and that's okay. And then you have a bunch of different companies that are selling you the services. So for example, here, an important thing to see is we have the name of the reseller, we have the retention, and then the connections. So for example, if we consider Anony News, their retention is 3,000 days or so, and they give you 50 connections to download stuff. So that's a pretty healthy amount of connections. So you're pretty sure that you're gonna saturate your connection. But if you look, for example, at others, you might see something like Atlantis News that only gives you 8 connections. And in other cases, you might see even companies that have a very low retention time, like 1,000 days. So you really have to look at all that, because there's a lot of options here to connect to the Usenet, but it all, you have to tailor it to your needs. The next thing that I want to cover is, and this is specifically the part that is going to be related to my next video, is, okay, so people have uploaded stuff to Usenet, the content that I want is there, but how in the hell do I know where to look for the content? So that's where we can discuss about this, because originally it was, someone had to share with you the NZB file that had the location of the articles that you needed. That was way back in the day, right? Or you had to go and manually search in the news groups for that content, which you can still do, but it's just a pain in the butt. And then we started to see the creation of indexers. So basically, this was private websites that had a system that would scrape the contents that were being dumped on the Usenet, and then basically mapping it to kind of a table. So this file is on XNZB and stuff like that. So if you wanted, for example, to get a movie, right? So then you would search for the movie name, and then if you found a mapping, then it would give you the NZB file that you need to download to get all the articles to get that movie, right? But then, again, people started looking for ways to make money with this. So then a bunch of indexers became private, and they started charging people to have access to their indexer and stuff like that. So then it started becoming kind of segregated and restricted, so that it wasn't as public as it was originally meant to be. And that's when Spotnet came into existence. And this is what is related to what is going to be my next video. Spotnet is basically a way for you to identify the contents that are in the Usenet cloud. So this is a very good definition that they have here. So Spotnet gets its name from people spotting the binaries, so looking at what people have been uploading, and then once they have been uploaded to Usenet, they organize them in a way that is easy to find and download in Spotnet. So basically the Spotnet was a protocol that was created on top of the News Network protocol so that you can find and download these things easily. Basically this protocol has built like a database that contains a lot of information and thumbnails and even comments about things that are in Usenet, things that people have uploaded. And it usually makes it easy for you to find things because it already has a category or a genre, quality, etc. So it allows you to filter out the content to what you specifically want. And now these spots basically become open source, publicly accessible to anyone, and then you can create basically your own indexer using an application like Spotweb, which is what I'm going to be doing in my next video. And basically this allows you to connect to the Usenet and look at the headers of the files, and then connect to the Spotnet and identify what's in all of those headers, and then you create your own private indexer that you can hold for yourself. And it's a very straightforward way for you to have access to the content that is in Usenet. Alright, so let's cover the advantages, the main advantages of Spotnet. The main one is obviously is that it's free. So basically the Spotnet client acts as your newsreader. But instead of searching stuff in the news groups and stuff like that, it organizes things based on the spots. And the spots, remember, is that database that was populated where it identifies what the content actually is. So it makes it a lot easier for you to then find things. So you can do filtering like the movies that were uploaded in the last 24 hours and things like that. And then another important thing is that then you know that you can get good quality binaries, because the Spotnet community is pretty good. The spots are frequently updated and kept well, so you know that whatever you find is what it is. And if something is uploaded and then people realize that it is not what they said it is, it can be blacklisted. So then if it's blacklisted, you know, okay, this is garbage, I'm not gonna download this. And it works to a point where basically it stops showing it to you in Spotnet. Again, mentioning that the filtering option is the best because you can filter by spots, so it's easier to find content, and you can get your binaries a lot faster. Remember, you will see things when you configure your application that might even be before your retention. So even though there's some things that you might see that you can download, if your retention doesn't reach that point, then you will not be able to access it. But that does not mean that it was a bad upload or that it was garbage. Another benefit is that it gives you the ability to have categories, so you can filter stuff down even more. It has a lot of powerful filters that you can apply to your search, and it's pretty straightforward. So those are like the main benefits of Spotnet. And in my next video, I'm going to be covering the application named Spotweb, which is a specific implementation of the Spotnet that you can host yourself in your home, in your NAS, and then have your own Usenet indexer that you can rely upon. So that's going to be it for this video. I apologize, it was kind of impromptu, I'm sick, but I hope it kind of gave you a little bit of context into what Usenet is, how it works, and how everything works behind the closed door. So if you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Remember that I'm not monetizing the channel, and that's on purpose, so I'm not making money from the YouTube videos. If you want to support me, you can donate using the link in the description below. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I try to make these videos for you based on the things that you would like me to cover. So that's gonna be it for this one. I'll see you in the next one.